launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off with Tommi Enenkel and Gleb Urvanov. These are the guys from Mangata Finance, and very happy to have them on the show with us today. Guys, welcome.
Happy to meet you, Jay.
Very happy to meet you as well. First of all, cheers. Thank you very much for joining me here on the patio. You guys have been up to a lot lately, setting up pools. Right now, it's a bit of a permissioned experience, right?
Yes.
I don't think there's a permissionless DEX in the ecosystem yet. Do you guys think about kind of opening things up, or do you want to kind of keep it small right now?
Opening things up is a goal what we have right now, because till now we only had the model one channel, one token.
Yes.
And the registration was, as you mentioned, permission full process.
Yeah.
And what we are going to do is we are aiming to open the channels to the parachains which have multiple tokens in it, and we aiming to have that listing process, the transferring process, absolutely permissionless. So basically, anyone can create a token, for example, on State Mint, and bring it to Mangata and create a pool out of it.
Yeah.
But it comes with a challenge as well. Well, as always, all permissionless things have a challenge in it. And what if someone will pretend to have some fake token? What if it is not KSM, but someone is creating fake KSM token and bringing it permissionlessly and trying to present it as a rightful KSM token for the users? And because of that, there should be some control mechanism which allow user to identify where the token is originating from. If it is a true KSM or it is a fake KSM, which someone just tried to sell on the smallest possible pool.
Yes, gotcha. So Gleb, I know we see Tommi a lot. He's always tweeting and putting his face out there. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your role at Mangata and what you're doing day to day.
Yeah, I'm one of the co-founders of Mangata. During the very first day, it was my job to create the prototype of the things we are building and design the algorithm for MEV prevention and how to make the exchange gasless, how to allow users pay only exchange commission and not the gas. And nowadays, in day-to-day basis, I'm CTO of the company. I'm working with the technical decisions and also the product features, what going for the product, what are the priorities and how we are going to implement it, what will be the algorithms. I'm working tight with the software architect and with the development team to make it happening.
Now, one of those priorities since the very beginning was to be MEV Resistants.
Yes,
Resistant.
absolutely.
You have a t-shirt, what does it say?
We have Stop MEV.
Stop MEV, and gasless is better than topless.
Yeah.
Which is, I totally agree.
We had a few discussions on Reddit today about it.
Nice. So, let's talk about how are you guys achieving MEV resistance? Because obviously a holy grail of DEXs, but we hear about it sometimes. How did you guys approach solving this problem?
I will try to be as short as possible answering that question.
Fine.
And the thing is, to fight something, you need to understand something. And during our MEV research, we were able to figure out what were two main types of MEV attacks. Value extracted by reordering, when attacker need to place their transaction in exact place inside the block, and value extraction by denial, when attacker just denying some user's transaction inside the block and placing their own instead of it. And a good example of it is arbitrage or liquidation. Basically, it's a pure gain transaction, and if extractor sees such a transaction coming from a user, he just rejects it from the user and replaces it with their own transaction, getting all the profit. So for those two things, we need to introduce two separate solutions, however interlinked in the implementation.
Okay.
So to fight the reordering thing, we introduce the deterministic randomization of the transaction inside the block.
Okay.
And to make it happen, we had to use all the benefits substrate give us in terms of flexibility of the block production and block execution. We're basically splitting it in two. So the first authority creating the block, putting inside transactions, but do not know in which order they will be executed, because the information required for the ordering does not exist in time of block creation. And the next authority, the block executor, takes already created block, cannot put any new transactions inside it, but defines the order in which transactions are ordered. Basically, the order is dictated to them, so we cannot tinker with it, we cannot execute it in different order, but it is randomized, so it is unknown before the block is created. So that is what goes for reordering. And
Yeah.
for denial, we are using double encryption of transaction. We are utilizing the same builder executing separation and basically requiring keys of block of both builder and executor to see what's inside the transaction. So when block builder creates a block, they do not know what is inside the transaction, but they already know where you got paid for including it inside the block.
Okay.
And the executor unlocks the transaction, getting what's inside it and being able executing it, but they cannot reject it because it's already inside.
Okay, interesting. So
That's the
you guys use the term resistant.
Yep.
How resistant is it? And do you see some vectors where this could be overcome?
A great
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
How resistant it is, we are yet to see some bot or some algorithms which successfully extracting value on other chain, which can work on Mangata chain. Basically, all the algorithms, all the bots we analyzed so far cannot operate on Mangata chain.
Okay.
So if it is a single party trying to extract some value,
Yeah.
it's just will not work on Mangata. But why we are saying resistance and where it goes towards a Byzantine tolerance. Because multiple actors on the chain may have access to different pieces of information and are able to collude to recreate the transaction or recreate the ordering, so they can predict what will be the final state of things and can affect it. It is, well, possible right now, and with the next iteration of our MEV prevention, we are going to fight those malicious collusions.
Okay, gotcha.
It's basically an arms race between
Right.
between value extractors and between prevention. And right now you see a sort of a big ideological battle going on. So for example, in Ethereum, it is very common that they talk about MEV democratization. You see the whole Flashbots project, which is about basically assuming you cannot fight MEV, so you have to play along with it. You have to, if everyone is stealing, then it will be equal.
Yeah.
That's the theory that they're having.
Interesting.
But we are rather talking about MEV minimization. So when there is an arms race, we are building technology that actually prevents MEV or sort of engages in this arms race. Yeah?
Okay.
Because any MEV solution that you see on Ethereum, for example, is usually just you pay directly for the MEV prevention.
Yeah.
But the problem of MEV is that you have to pay additionally. It's like the mafia. You have to pay additionally just not to get stolen from you.
Right.
And so the beauty of our MEV solution is that you don't pay extra. It's natively covered by the protocol. It gives everyone the same access, and it's naturally prevented by the renunciation of the transactions.
So when you say an arms race, I mean, this sounds like you guys are always going to have to be building out and always going to have to be staying one step ahead of the attackers, right? How do you guys run a business where you're always like innovating and you're in this arms race? How do you ensure that you can keep up?
As long as there are traders who are getting their value, who are getting their revenue out of their trading activities,
Yeah.
they are to be protected.
Right.
And as long as they need that protection, we are in business.
Yeah.
So either we are creating the ultimate solution which stands for years to come, and every trader are satisfied with what we are getting out of it, or if they need continuously grow their protection, we are here to help them.
Amazing, yeah. Go ahead.
And what I could also add is, so imagine you're doing a swap right now on Uniswap.
Yeah.
So you're paying the gas fee, you're paying the exchange commission, and then there is MEV taking from you. So even if our solution just holds for a few years, but we're basically, this is our contribution that we can provide a DEX where the fee you're paying is exactly the 0.3% and not gas and not MEV that you're additionally paying, right? And what you have to say is we are intellectually invested in the challenge. Many others are just not confronting the challenge
Right.
and pushing it away. But since we're engaged in this discussion, and we're also on Twitter and on other platforms in discussions with MEV actors, yeah. So they're challenging us, and they say, but so you can have very deep discussions about this. Yeah, it's just a matter of even engaging the issue.
Sure. Okay, so I guess the next part of this is all about volume, because we kind of know that in Polkadot and Kusama right now, volume activity across the chains is pretty low. And in general, DEXs have comparatively lower volume than we'll say on like Solana or Ethereum. Well, what are the challenges and the strategies you guys are employing to overcome them to get that volume on the DEX here and make it all worth it?
There are two things to mention. First of all, once there will be significant volume, it will be also a bigger resistance to get a significant amount of liquidity into a new DEX, because liquidity is sticky by its nature to the exchanges where it is located. So you may remember the Uniswap versus SushiSwap thing, when
Yep.
SushiSwap tried to take away Uniswap liquidity, and then we take most of it, and most of it went back, and so on.
Yeah.
Because ultimately liquidity is a sticky thing. So starting building where is not so much volume and not so much liquidity yet to
Yeah.
create a place where the liquidity can be accommodated is a strategy we chosen. But from that point on, we are able to grow, because together with the ecosystem, the need for the DEX is growing too. The new projects raising who are aiming not only to get into some DEX, but also want to bootstrap their token.
So you have to make it really comfortable for liquidity to be at a place.
Right.
And so, for example, a concept we're following is multi-purpose liquidity. So, because liquidity provision is sort of a risky game, you have to understand it really, and it's hard to nail it in a way that you can really profit from it. Yeah. So, liquidity provider earns from the exchange commission, might earn from incentives, but then we're also having proof of liquidity.
Yeah.
So proof of liquidity is similar to proof of stake, but instead of the native token, you're staking liquidity to secure the network against front running. And so we can give out collateral rewards also to the liquidity providers if they're providing the liquidity into proof of liquidity.
So there, when you have a proof of liquidity, you're putting a pair in, or
Right.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
you kind of get a receipt for that, and then that pays out from collated rewards.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So we call it stake once, earn twice.
Yeah.
Because you have the liquidity mining incentives, the trade volume, and also the collateral incentives.
Nice.
And we started discussing even a third possibility that we are now researching.
And
Yeah, so
Give it a hint.
yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
we're currently exploring it. We still have to think it through because the economics of a chain are fairly complex.
sure.
So we recently added liquidity gauges. Liquidity gauges is a concept that is coming from Curve Finance,
Yeah.
where basically token holders can vote into which pools emissions are going.
Okay.
They can vote on the distribution, on the pie chart, on which pool receives how many rewards. So we currently added this for governance, which is currently the council, to decide how liquidity should be, incentives should be directed. But in the future, this could be put into the hands of token holders, for example. This is how you see it on Curve. The token holders are voting where the emissions go. But we now start to think, what if you instead let the liquidity providers vote on where liquidity mining incentives go? So if they lock up liquidity, that set, let's say the liquidity combined against the native token, they could vote on where the incentives are going.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so this could be a very interesting concept where you give another purpose to liquidity. You would lock it up, so there's opportunity cost, but on the other side, you could be directing the policy and the faith of the protocol.
Okay. So by locking up liquidity, you have a little bit more of a say in how it's distributed in the
Exactly.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're
Very
locking
interesting.
liquidity,
Yeah.
and you're getting more rewards out of it if
Yeah.
you're just not locking it.
Very cool stuff. Let's pull back a little bit and talk about the bigger DeFi landscape on Polkadot and Kusama here, because we have other interesting concepts happening. We have like the Omni pool happening with Hydra, Picasso, the Akala situation. Well, how do you see, like, maybe in 2 years from now, what's kind of like the dream of how all these DeFi protocols are working together?
I always used to think about different products as a different tools for achieving different goals.
Sure.
It's like with the coding languages, you don't have one fits all,
Right.
but everyone is perfect for its own purpose. I expecting the same direction of evolution with DeFi products. So even it is under the hood, the same primitive, a decentralized exchange, it can be used, or its use case can be narrowed to perfectly fit what is required by the users. And that is what I expect to happen in the future. So I expect some chains have a simpler exchanges which just allow users to do a token swap for their convenience, but for a worse price if user so decides. But at the same time, more professional oriented exchanges will exist which will give trader a full control over the money flow, over the conditions of the exchange. And this way, users who just want some some tokens will get better convenience, but professional traders who are living out of their trading activities will
Right.
have better control. And that's evolution I already see to happen in Polkadot ecosystem.
Okay, that's great. So it's really about the customer base of the liquidity providers that you're trying to attract.
Yeah, there are many different niches, and it's also the great thing about Substrate and Polkadot is that there are so many possibilities opening up that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So, for example, with Oak Network, we are working on the auto compounding feature,
Yep.
right? So it's basically as a user that is providing liquidity on Mangata or MangataX, and you're getting rewards. So you can schedule a call on Oak or Turing Network to every day claim the rewards, reinvest them in liquidity, and stake them again. Yeah? And this would be like a single action from the Oak side.
Yeah.
And we're just scratching the surface here, because if Oak, for example, builds price oracles, you could do something that you traditionally can only do on centralized exchanges.
Sure.
Like a take profit, a stop loss. You currently don't have that in DeFi.
I know, right.
But if the price falls under a certain level or goes above a certain level, you could get a signal from Oak Network. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible here, because you see so many, for a Zeitgeist, for example, with the prediction markets, you could use all the signals that you're getting from Zeitgeist about how the future might look like to base automated strategies on it or to hedge against something.
Yeah.
So there are many possibilities opening up at the moment, and it's just about having the conversations and see what is possible.
That's the thing I like the most about Polkadot ecosystem. It's about cooperation and building together, not a competition.
Right.
Because from the Ethereum landscape, I used to the situation when different products are fighting for the same resource, the scarce block space, and basically one successful product hurting other projects, even if we are trying to cooperate. But here, with Polkadot system, it's completely different, and we are able to cooperate, not to compete with other teams.
Gotcha. So what do you guys think about spreading your wings onto the Polkadot network? You guys, made a really strong decision to establish yourselves in the Kusama ecosystem. What does that look like? Are you guys going to evolve into 2 chains? Are you going to move the chain over? How do you see this path?
We are aiming to have 2 chains in the future, the Kusama version of Mangata, MangataX, and the Polkadot Mangata version. And we are following the same narrative as, for example, Coinbase do. We have the basic version, simplified one, and Coinbase Pro for advanced users. And the Kusama version is a pro version with all bells and whistles, with newest features, with even some experimental stuff. And the Polkadot will be the stable one, the simpler one. But I also expect some of the features will migrate over time from Kusama version to Polkadot version if it turns out users do require it and enjoy using it.
Cool, that's amazing. And this is like a year out or 2 or?
Yes, basically as soon as we will launch the Polkadot version, the division will happen, because the Polkadot version is going to be stable, the Kusama version is going to be fast evolving.
We have a handful of promises about what we want to deliver. So this is Themis architecture with our MEV prevention. This is proof of liquidity. This is gasless swaps. This is algorithmic buy and burn. And then you have a few other ones like liquidity gotchas and permissionless pool creation and so on. Now, with the newest release, we might have 60% delivered now. And internally, we are having maybe 80% complete and testing it right now. And the idea is always, once we have all of the core features ready, we are ready to go to Polkadot. It's very good that we're launching on Kusama, because we are trying this decision out now, and if it turns out to be a bad decision, we will make it differently on Polkadot. So far, everything is turning out pretty well, but it's good to be on Kusama and have more freedom to test stuff out.
Right. So when you guys have 2 chains, I guess that kind of doubles the headaches and everything as well, right?
That's a questionable thing, because once you have everything polished with a single chain, if you have all the processes up and running as they should be, I mean the DevOps, the testing, regressions, delivery, it's becoming less and less headache. And even now, I can say I see it on the development processes. So every upgrade goes easier and faster for the team, especially compared to the first ones. So once we are achieving that state of flawless run of the chain, then not so much we need to do to maintain it working. So I believe even if right now we split into 2 chains, it will be much easier to maintain than 1 chain a year ago.
Okay. Well, you guys have a good strategy for attracting liquidity. But what's your strategy been for attracting the talent to pull off building this thing?
The talent is naturally attracted to the best challenges.
Yeah, clearly.
Yes, and that is why I'm happy to say right now we have our team complete, both on the technical and non-technical side,
Yeah.
and we are not going to expand our team further,
Okay.
at least for a while,
Yeah.
because we have all the roles covered. Everyone has the challenge and pretty happy with it, and because of that we are prepared for a long run with the team we have right now. We are 20 people, and I want to keep the numbers.
Perfect. Well, it's super exciting what you guys are working on. I love the vision and how orderly you guys are approaching this massive problem. Your courage for approaching a problem that everyone else seems to just be kind of ignoring or creating new weird philosophies around. It's really, really cool to have you in the Kusama ecosystem. And I just want to thank you very much for sitting down with us today.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you,
buddy. See ya. Thanks, Gleb.